The film begins with a woman named Mallory Hayes warning two kids, known only as boy and girl, that they are about to go on a risky journey across the river, and she emphasizes the importance of them wearing blindfolds as they head outside. Mallory grabs a box containing her beloved birds and leads the children outside with a string trail before locating the boat and jumping in. 5 years ago, Mallory was a pregnant artist. She is visited by her sister Jessica, and the two watch a television broadcast about unexplained mass suicides that began in Siberia and are now spreading throughout Europe. Jess notices Mallory's artwork, which she believes symbolizes a lack of connection, but she assures her that it won't be the same with the baby. She then offers to take Mallory to the doctor. Mallory visits Dr. Lapham and jokes with Jess about drinking while pregnant. Lapham finds the comments amusing and suggests that Mallory consider having someone adopt the kid if she believes she isn't ready to parent it. On their way out of the office, Mallory and Jess witness a woman they passed earlier acting strangely and slamming her head against the window. They realize that whatever was harming people in Europe and Siberia has spread to America. They rush outside just as the chaos begins, with people smashing their cars in the street. Jess drives Mallory away, but not long after, her eyes become a strange color as she appears to be terrified by something she can only see. She drives recklessly, with Mallory attempting to keep her on the road, but Jess flips the car and crashes. They survive, but Jess remains in a stupor, and Mallory can only see her sister step in front of a truck. Mallory runs alongside the rest of the group. She is knocked over and falls in front of a house. Lydia comes out of her house to assist Mallory, against her husband Douglas' objections. Lydia appears to enter a trance and speak with her mother before Lydia can assist Mallory. Lydia enters a burning automobile, which shortly explodes. A man named Tom assists Mallory and runs into the house. A cop named Lucy is following them. Greg, the homeowner, Charlie, Felix, Cheryl, and Jason and Samantha are all in the house. The latter two exit the house when they hear their son on the phone, sounding like he is in danger. The other people tell each other about what they've seen and those who have been affected by this mystery power. Charlie suspects that the creature is caused by demons that manifest as one's darkest sadness or greatest loss. They are all aware that the creature is invisible, and that staring at it will force one to commit suicide. Mallory walks away from the group, and Tom rushes to comfort her as she describes what happened to Jess. The group then boards up the doors and puts newspapers in the windows to keep people from looking outside. 6 hours on the river, Mallory and the children continue to descend the river as it becomes pitch black. Mallory tries to contact people via the radio, and she begins to hear the thing whisper her name. Back in the past, a survivor named Olympia begged to be let into the house. Douglas attempts to prevent this, but Mallory takes a weapon just in case. The others gently invite Olympia into the house, where they discover she is also pregnant. Greg then offers to observe whatever is outside by checking the transmitters in the house. He sits in front of the computers, expecting to see something, and it appears as he does. The others suddenly hear a banging sound from the room. They race upstairs just in time to see Greg tip over and smack his head against the edge, killing him. The others then destroy the computer monitor. Later that night, Olympia attempts to talk with Mallory about potential baby names, but Mallory prefers to be left alone. She walks around and thinks she hears a thumping noise in the home, but it turns out to be Lucy and Felix hooking up. 14 hours on the river, Mallory hears a man's voice crying out that it's okay to remove the blindfolds, but she tells the kids not to. He maintains he is food and has seen the creature, so there's no reason to be afraid of it. Mallory pulls at her gun and fires blindly, just before the man grabs her and attempts to remove her blindfold. Mallory fights and kills the man with a machete. The group has starting to run out of food, and they know aid will not be coming. Mallory, Tom, Douglas, Lucy, and Charlie gather to go to the grocery where Charlie used to work after he locked it up as things went sideways. They paint over the windows and follow the GPS. On the road, they try to ignore the fact that they are driving over dead bodies. The GPS then begins to sound a proximity alert, indicating that the thing is surrounding them. Tom gets them out of harm's way. They go to the market and take as much food as they can. Mallory notices some birds and chooses to take them as pets. They suddenly hear the voice of Charlie's coworker Fish Fingers, who is trapped in a freezer and begs to be let out. He then goes on to say how wonderful the creature is and how it must be seen. Fish Fingers begins to break out while Lucy, Tom, and Douglas attempt to hold back him. Charlie then sees the thing and realizes that he is doomed. He rushes at Fish Fingers and locks them both in the freezer, where Charlie dies, while the others return home. Fish Fingers' voice can still be heard begging to be released. That night, Mallory and Douglas unexpectedly bond over their personal issues. The others then hear what sounds like a car driving away. When they enter the garage, they discover that it, as well as Lucy and Felix, have disappeared. After 24 hours on the river, Mallory stops rowing to rest. When she resumes, the boat collides with a submerged truck, causing Boy to fall out. Mallory pulls him out and attempts to warm him, but the food and blankets have gone into the river, so she does her best to warm Boy up. She abandons the children in the boat and heads into the woods to try to get food. Mallory enters a building and hears a noise. She notices things moving on their own, being pushed by the monster. She manages to exit the building, but the thing continues to whisper her name. Mallory fires her rifle at the thing, which Girl hears and leaves the boat to assist Mallory. However, she finds Girl and snatches her, scolding her for abandoning the boat as they return to it. In the past, Tom tells Mallory about being stationed in Iraq and how he and his friends would follow a dad as he escorted his children to school amidst the violence. They also begin to develop feelings for each other. Olympia led a desperate man named Gary into the villa. The others actively hunt and question Gary. He informs the others that some escaped mental patients pursued him and a companion, compelling them to look at the animals. Gary's companion fought one of them, allowing him to escape and run to his house. He claims that there are people outside who are not wearing blindfolds and are eager to view the animals and share their vision with others. Douglas does not trust Gary and attempts to force him out of the house at gunpoint, but Cheryl knocks him unconscious and allows Gary to stay, and they lock Douglas in the garage. Olympia apologizes deeply for bringing Gary in and says she feels like a burden, but Mallory assures her she is not. Olympia then asks Mallory to look after her kid if anything happens to her, and Mallory accepts. She then offers Olympia a Hello Kitty toy to give to the baby. After 38 hours on the river, we notice Girl carrying the Hello Kitty toy, indicating that she is Olympia's daughter. Mallory covers herself and the kids with a blanket to warn them that they are approaching the rapids, which will be the most dangerous section of the journey. She informs them that someone will need to keep their eyes open in order to navigate, and both children volunteer, but Mallory decides it is not worth risking any of them, so she tells them that no one will look and they would simply brave the rapids with blindfolds. In the past, both Mallory and Olympia begin to labor. While Tom and Cheryl assist the women, Gary takes out a collection of drawings of the monsters, since he is one of the insane people who has seen them and wants others to see them. He takes Mallory's birds and places them in the fridge, because they appear to sense and alert others to danger, before pulling the papers off the windows, which Douglas notices. Gary opens the garage door in an attempt to get rid of Douglas. Meanwhile, Olympia gives birth to a girl and Mallory gives birth to a boy. Gary walks into the room and pulls up the shades in front of Olympia. She hands Mallory her baby just before she jumps out the window. Gary then forces Cheryl to open her eyes to the outer world, prompting her to commit suicide with scissors. Douglas approaches with a gun, but he is unable to shoot with his eyes open and fears of hurting Mallory and the babies. He shoots Gary in the arm, but stabs Douglas with the scissors, kills him. Tom notices the rifle and attempts to take it, as does Gary. 2 gunshots are heard, but Tom is spotted alive, heading to Mallory and the babies. It's 5 years later, right before the films start. Mallory and Tom have been living together and raising their 2 children, but Tom accuses Mallory of failing to connect with them or even name them. They hear something outside, and it's a few people driving out without blindfolds or window coverings. Mallory begins preparing her system outside as a warning to the children. At night, the 2 get a radio broadcast from a man named Rick, who reports that he is in a safe complex with plenty supplies and food. He directs them on how to travel to the facility down the river, warning them about the dangers of going down there with children and what they will need to see to get through. Rick instructs them to follow the sound of birds to find the location. Tom wants to go to the compound, but Mallory suspects it is a trap. Outside, the earlier survivors return to the house. Tom rushes to confront them, as Mallory and the children escape safely. The survivors, commanded by Whistling Marauder, order Tom to remove his blindfold. When they see Mallory and the children, Tom fires, killing 3 of the marauders before taking 1 shot himself. Tom removes his blindfold and kills 2 more before pursuing the leader, who is chasing Mallory and the kids. The creature begins to control Tom, but he resists it long enough to murder the leader before turning the pistol on himself, letting Mallory know he is gone. Mallory then gets the children and leads them down to the river. They have been on the river for 42 hours and are now reaching the rapids. They reach the turbulent waves, which Mallory attempts to cross, but the boat tips over and everyone jumps out. Mallory shouts out to the kids and discovers Boy in the water, But Girl has made it to land and Mallory locates her because Girl has a bell that she keeps ringing. The three then travel through the woods, where the thing whispers to them and exerts all of its strength to get them to look, but Mallory's will is stronger, and she convinces the kids to listen to her rather than look. She follows the sounds of the birds as they approach the property, but the thing surrounds them as she attempts to enter until someone opens the door and allows them in. Mallory's eyes are examined, and she and the children are cleared to enter. They meet Rick, and Mallory discovers that the facility is a blind school where the residents are safe from the entities. Mallory and the kids then meet Dr. Lapham, who warmly welcomes them. She asks the kids their names, and Mallory ultimately names them. The girl is named Olympia after her mother, and the boy after Tom. Mallory proudly states that these are her children, and she is their mother. Mallory then opens the bird box, allowing the birds to join the others in the sanctuary.